the middle of what appears to be a dog park right now. So dog fans out there, you may get some fun dogs running around behind us. We had several stop by as we've been recording this. So back in San Diego again, doing another one of our shows here. We've spent the day running around and doing a variety of things. We'll talk about our day in San Diego. We will talk about things that are coming up, some of the videos that we have. We will also talk about some of the tips from this week and some of the news from the last week since we did the last show. So we're at the time of year where a lot of the information or just information in general is moving a lot faster than normal. So we thank you for being here. Hello, Carrie. Good to see you there. Carrie, we just had a pug just here a few minutes ago that looked super cute, which we got a
Came
picture
up
for
to
you.
Sean and Sean like pet it for a second. It was very cute, but my camera was already in the monopod, so I couldn't like grab it to get a photo. So I'm sorry.
Cute dogs
Very
all around
cute.
here today. So we are sitting though in the Bayfront lawn here where FX has traditionally been, and this is just 2 weeks obviously till Comic-Con, and whatever is going to be happening in this area will be underway, and so we look forward to that. But let's get to kind of the day and some of the things we've been doing. As we have in the past weeks, if you have questions or things you want to contribute, you can throw them in the chat. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can today.
And we'll get to them in between the segments and stuff, so we won't stop our conversation until like a breaking point, and then we'll try to catch up on things. So.
Yeah.
And there's a helicopter again. Yeah.
There's been a lot of helicopters out here today. It's interesting. So, okay, so since our last time, and I know others have already seen this prior to us, but Outside Comic-Con had pics that they had posted, and just it's been awesome to see from a distance. But it's been about, what, I think 7 days since we've been out here, 8 days since we've been out here last, but rolling into town and seeing some of the banners up. Not all of the banners on the street are up by any means, but there are a number of them up. The side on the Bayfront side still is all Padres, but on the other side towards the Marriott, a lot of the Comic-Con International banners with the creator on them are up there. And then also on 5th Street, so you can start having those like more classic pictures with the convention center as the backdrop, or the Gaslamp District sign, and those are all up. So it's nice to see those. The same wraps on the trolleys have been rolling around, seeing those. Although, as we said last time, it's kind of weird that there just are a lot less trolley wraps this year. There's just no way. That's anecdotal. We don't have any research to support that, but just sitting there and watching, it is different. There's a lot more just plain red cars, or again, Paula, Casino, or UC San Diego, or ones like that. So it's not every trolley rolling in is, Futurama or any of those ones, but they still help set the tone, the ones that you do see.
And I still haven't seen the Carl's Jr. wraps at all. And I've looked, and I keep looking for it, because I think those are the only ones I haven't seen, and I have not seen them at all. So I think it's a conspiracy, and I don't think they actually exist, is my opinion.
Yeah.
I will see them at some point. I just haven't yet.
Yeah, but like today, we were around the track shooting video a lot today, and we never saw the Paramount Plus one all day today. Now, we've seen it before, but it's just, I feel like in most years, every time a trolley rolls by, it's got wraps, and just that's not quite the case this year. Seeing One Piece, which is, I don't know what they call it, because it's different. It's like the Disney Cruise Line one last year that was on the Bayfront garage as well, but this one's facing on Harbor there, but it's not quite a normal wrap because it's not pasted on. It's kind of like a banner type thing that they fasten with ropes and stuff like that, but that's facing Harbor Drive, and it was cool to see that. We just saw a lot of One Piece at Anime Expo. The new series, the live action version dropping on Netflix, was a big deal there, and I'm sure it'll be a big deal here in a different way, but it was neat seeing that up, even though it's not quite, we don't have it looking down on us from the Bayfront or anything like that. It's kind of a little bit out of the way in comparison to most Comic-Con wraps, but it's cool to see it there, and we can't wait. Obviously, next time we come down here next week, I would imagine some of the wraps will start rolling in around that time, because that's usually the window where they do as you get closer to that 10-day or 14-day or whatever. I guess we're at 14 days now, huh? Yeah, we're less than that, 13. So yeah, not quite there yet, but who knows, maybe when we leave town to tomorrow, we'll see some of those wraps. That seems to happen to us a lot. We did stop by the Hard Rock, because the Hard Rock posted on their Instagram that their pins are dropping very soon here. So they said Monday, so we stopped by to see if they had any of them out that we could take photos of. There were none out. The people working there seemed they said they'd be out Monday, and they said they'd also be out preview night. They seemed a little conflicted, but that's what they said. They said they would be $16, but it all just seemed a little like they weren't entirely sure, but they definitely said all that. So, but anyway, you can watch the Hard Rock in their social media, and our friends over there, Carrie and the blog, posted also all the information that is known about them as of now, because I know for some people that's one of their pins. I don't know if they've even been available by the time we've gotten into town, but we did stop in and check in there. And then the big thing kind of for us today is, thanks to Carrie and the blog crew, we got to try some chocolates. So the San Diego Convention Center doing their annual chocolates that they sell at the the Ballroom 20 kiosk is what they call it. So right next to Ballroom 20 over there. So we met with one of their marketing reps earlier today, and she handed us off some chocolate, and then we tried to scurry to do photos and a video tasting before they melted in the San Diego sun here. So the cosplay one, I don't think the wrapper made it from that one, because it was like really glued in there.
Onto the inside wrapper, and so as we were filming, it was like we tried to be careful to remove them, so we only got left with the other three: the Crop Circle Crunch, the Lunchbox Hero, and the, I keep calling it Obey, but to me it looks more like Obey, so I don't know exactly how they meant it to be pronounced, but you can go to that video, and we tried them and stuff, and we spoiler, we were pleasantly surprised, I think, by all of them. I was skeptical of a chocolate that has basil or a chocolate made of purple yams and stuff, and I was not expecting much. I actually was concerned that I would react too negatively on the video, but they actually were all good, so I did enjoy them, and they were much bigger than I expected. In particular, the Lunchbox Hero, you can't really tell from the wrapper, but you can in the other video. Yeah, it's like really large relative to the other one. So but yeah, take a look at that video, and we like open them up and you can see inside them and stuff. So
yeah, if you head over to the unofficial blog, there's a story there, there's photos. We tried to take photos of the insides of them too, 'cause they really have kind of more of like a cookie interior to some of them and things like that, so it was kind of neat to see them all. But yeah, it was really a race against time. Once we got them, we met up at Hall H with the representative. We got them, and it's not hot, like especially where we're from. It's like 15 degrees, 20 degrees warmer than it is here, but the sun coming down, it is like, okay, it's a little warm here, we better get over there and get this done fast.
Plus we filmed it up on the sales level, where what is it, like the third floor above the sales pavilion outside, and so the sun was blazing. We're on top of a building, and but we wanted the backdrop to be the convention center, and so we were there, and so we trekked up all those stairs to get up there, and then so yeah, they were already starting to melt a little bit. So currently they're in our car under the convention center, so I'm hoping they remain in some sort of form that we can eat them later, because it was a lot of chocolate, so we couldn't come close to finishing them.
No, yeah, and it's all of the chocolate was quite sweet. I liked it a lot, but it is very sweet, so it's definitely something we would be rationing out with that. But yeah, you can check out more over there on the blog to get more information on that. So okay, so let's transition to the news here, and then we'll maybe take a break in the middle of it to answer some of those questions that we see coming in there as well. So lots of news since the last time we talked. I mean, so much news. Last night, the SDCon cast, they have such a big news segment there with exclusives and all of those things. It's like we're going to really kind of pare it down to just a handful of things here that we talk about. But one of the big things, and they talked last night with Eric Goldman on the SDCon cast, and highly encourage you to check that out if you didn't, about like TV. And obviously we're in this weird strike situation. We're in the writer's strike. We know the actor's strike is kind of looming. Will it, won't it, type of thing. But in the end, as close as we are to Comic-Con now, it does seriously impact the schedule. There's no way around it. So one of the big things for the week, obviously, is the schedule dropping today, or the first part of it, Wednesday and Thursday. It's interesting because as the schedule dropped today, one of the things that I was thinking as I was seeing a lot of things that I was like pleasantly surprised about, I was like, this is a very like Parks and Cons schedule in a lot of ways, which is traditionally we are not people that are like sleeping out overnight for 2 days to see a panel or anything like that. Like, we are really opportunists and looking for panels to have like weak spots. We've never
camped out before. Yeah. It's just not our thing, so we've never done it.
So we look for a lot of weak spots in the schedules where there's kind of weird room rotations where things empty out, or big competing panels in another room, and we just look for fun opportunities, and we usually end up seeing quite a few really great panels. But this one, there was a lot of things that were really of interest to me, but also at the the same time, there are things that I can see that, you know, it's going to be played a particular audience, and they may not all fit in. And it'll be interesting, again, going back to our friends at the blog, when they do their panel breakdown, looking at kind of the room composition and kind of what's going to stay in there, how many people are going to wait for things. It's interesting, like seeing Sesame Street in the middle of like wrestling and like Crunchyroll, I think, and stuff like that. There's some interesting room compositions there. But I was just going to real quick just say for myself, in terms of like liking the schedule, what I always do is I start to put into a planner. I don't use Sketch or any of those things myself. I just like to use my planner, just I don't know if it's old school or not, I guess, because it's not handwritten or anything like that, but just in my phone. But what I always do at this point is when they announce the schedule, I put in, like, in a perfect world, if I could go to all the panels I want, here's what I would go to. And I haven't looked at all the rooms yet, so this is not complete. This is just some of the bigger rooms to start off. But already in that, like for myself, I would like to see the TMNT panel, the Project K, Inside India's History Making, Sci-Fi Epic, Behind the Scenes of the Cast of Jury Duty, Twisted Metal, A24 Talk to Me, Masters of the Universe Revelations, What We Do in the Shadows, Sesame Street. All of those are a lot of interest to me. So what of those we'll see, what other things we get tied up in, whether it's offsites or, you know, who knows, signings or exclusives. I mean, I'm not sure what of that we'll see. A lot of them conflict, as is the classic Comic-Con schedule. But right now, I was really excited because I didn't know if there'd be much of anything really on this first Thursday of those panels that really caught my attention.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, it's, yeah, What We Do in the Shadows, the Sesame Street and stuff. I'm excited for, and we'll see like who actually comes to the panels and who's actually the panelist for all of these things. And obviously some of them are left very vague, and some of them you know, specifically say people will be attending, but then will they or not, we'll see, depending on how things go. But yeah, it's definitely promising, I think, and definitely something to look forward to, because yeah, I mean, who knew coming into it? And we still don't know for sure what'll happen. Obviously there can be cancellations or changes and stuff, so we'll see. But I think it's definitely hopeful and definitely promising.
You know, and so with that, I'm going to drop into the chat here for anybody that missed it. But Kara over at the blog puts together a kind of breakdown of the room, of the how many seats are in the room, and then what are the panels there that are happening. And I really like that for myself as an easy go-to to see, like, okay, there's 1,000 seats. Because if anybody, and we know there's some people watching that this might be their first San Diego Comic-Con, two big things about panels is what is after it. It always matters, really, honestly, most what's after it, even more than the panel a lot of times.
Because remember, Comic-Con doesn't clear rooms, so people can get there first thing in the morning and stay there until the very last panel, if that's one that they're waiting for. So it's always something, a little bit more work to have to consider, you know, how early you need to get in there, depending on what's around and how popular things are. And obviously, if you happen to luck out and there's several things in one room that are of interest, then you can just stay there and hang out and get comfortable.
Yeah, I think that's it's just a big thing, and depending on what panels you go to at other conventions, it's just can be a very different situation. So it's something important to note there. The other thing with the panels is that, I mean, as you look at the timing of them in the day versus other things, whether it's signings or if off-sites only happen certain times or something like that, that can all play into it as well. So there's a lot of variables that even go beyond just like the panel you want to see there. And so it's just important kind of considerations there, I think, as those break down. But seeing that, as I put in the chat there for those that are with us on YouTube here, I like that breakdown because it's really easy to read what's before, what's after. And I also love seeing the number of seats, because it's hard to know in the end what that means relative to the entire population of San Diego Comic-Con. But I think it helps a lot to know. Like, to me, the Muppets, you know, Sesame Street, I mean, that's like, to me, way too small of a room for it. But I mean, it's not, you know, it's not up to me. It is what it is. But I wish that was like in Hall H, because it's like, I really want to see that. But looking at what's after it, I'm like, I'm not sure that that's going to be an easy thing to do. And we'll see. And we will tune in when Carrie and James and the rest of them talk about it on their podcast, on the SD Concast, to see what they think, because I am curious about that as well, and seeing where that kind of fits into the overall of everything. So, okay, let's look real quick before we get to the rest of the news items there. Some things in the chat there. where was that? There's a lot of things here. We can't get to everything, so we're just going to kind of pick a few out here. The carpet situation, Anime Expo versus Comic-Con. One thing just to remember about the differences there, and I'm bringing this one up because we've seen that a lot, is anime, manga, Crunchyroll, Viz, like they have accelerated from the pandemic onward. So those booths have, I think, those companies have like more money than ever in a lot of ways. And meanwhile, Warner Brothers and Disney and a lot of our more Americanized companies are in a lot different place financially. So I think that's a part of it there. I don't know. I mean, I don't know the logistics of their business practices or things like that. But I think that's one thing we've seen consistently is anime-related things definitely are having a lot of money these days. Another question was about people camping out this year. We actually just shot our video for the convention center, like where to line up, Hall H, and it was interesting because the Hall H side of things, it was a very different way recording it this year, because normally it's just a given that like it's going to be huge lines and wristband distribution, and in shooting that video today it was kind of like, well, we're not quite sure yet if wristband distribution will even be needed. We're not sure if people want it. I would imagine if Funko is going to be in there that they would, and they'll need that, but maybe not. And so it's just a very weird, like looking at all my notes from 2022 versus today, it was kind of like, we'll see. And there's still a lot of wait and see here with everything. If all of a sudden all of a sudden new chapter in this whole story of the strikes comes about and some things get tied up and people get paid and stuff, then maybe we'll see more. Other questions here. Went through the questions. Thanks for all the great coverage. Thank you, Steve, Chad, Jason. We see a bunch of our Patreon supporters there. Thank you so much for being there. Thank you for tuning in. And okay, let's come back to that then after a few more news points. So, but you can continue to throw questions in there, and we will come back to make it to as many as we can. Another thing from the last week that I know I really was excited about is there wasn't a ton of offsite news in this last round, and we do know a lot of great stuff still on its way. But the Peanuts one, the Snoopy one, returning, 200 J Street, I believe, was excited to see that that's coming back. Beagle Scouts, Camp Snoopy. Being Knott's Berry Farm fans, we're very familiar with Camp Snoopy and love that spot. But Peanuts is one of those brands that I feel like, and I'm sure I'm incorrect, but I just feel like ever since we've been coming to Comic-Con, Peanuts has been like a big part of it. Like we've seen Snoopy, whether it's off-sites, the booths on the floor, the walk-around character, whatever. I just always kind of associate, even actually back here in the Bay, one of my best Bay memories behind us here was seeing a Snoopy as Red Baron drone. Somebody was flying around Snoopy. I think it was like 2015. It's just like, I just feel like Snoopy has always been a thing here. And so hearing them have an off-site again, I was like, okay, good. That feels very normal to me, and I was excited to see that.
Agreed. I'm not sure that we've really spent a ton of time with any Peanuts off-sites, but they're always cool, and it's comforting to know that it's there and that we could, potentially, if we were willing to put in the time and stuff. So, agreed. It's feels very comfortable to see that, or comforting to see that there.
Yeah, the movies pop up. The reservations going up today, and prior to that, Kevin Smith and signings, but also like Fat Man Beyond, Hollywood Babylon, all of that. We always want to go, like with movies, when we saw it went up, we had a debate on the drive-in this morning. It's like, I do want to go, but then it's always like, I don't really know my Comic-Con schedule yet, and I would hate to pay, $30 a person, and then it conflicts with some panel that we want to do or some other opportunity. We have a really hard time committing to things at San Diego until we have a clearer picture.
In life in general, we have trouble committing to things because things always pop up in the different things that we cover, and so we are always like, we try to wait as long as possible to ever RSVP to things, which I think is frustrating for our families and friends and stuff sometimes, that we can't commit, or most of the times when we do commit, it's like, okay, we're committing, but as long as nothing else comes up, we'll be there. So unfortunately with movies, it's like, I would hate to waste the money and have taken that spot from someone else who could have used it and stuff, and have something else come up. So unfortunately, that one we had to not jump on.
I mean, in the theme park world, it's not uncommon. There's several times a year that we'll get an email at like noon and like, hey, tonight at 5 at Disneyland or Knott's or wherever, the Universal, this thing's happening. So yeah, it's difficult to commit. And so movies, I guess we're probably going to get left out of movies again because it's going to be all sold out, and we're not going to want to dedicate the time to it ahead of time without knowing what the other things are. Another big thing, obviously, the floor map dropping. Huge news there. I know for myself, the floor is my favorite part of Comic-Con. It is Comic-Con to me. They could strip everything else down if I had the floor. I mean, I love everything else, but the floor is just like, that's to me what Comic-Con is. It's what made me fall in love with Comic-Con, and seeing the floor map back. We did put a video up. You can also find that over at the blog with our guide this year, which is about 27 minutes of talking about the floor and coming to the booths there. Some quick little highlights from that. Just having DC back is a big deal to me. That's a booth I've always loved, and having it back not as a part of Warner Brothers to me is even more important. I mean, I'd ideally like to see the Warner Brothers booth back and having the DC booth back, the comic side of it, but at least getting DC back I think is a big deal, and I was excited that also seeing Dark Horse back. Dark Horse was always a favorite booth for me. They used to have a lot of great signing opportunities. They used to have some fun swag. We still have a ton of their like bags and stuff like that from some of their comics, so excited to see them back. Doctor Who on the floor, it's neat to see that there as well. Strange New Worlds, we'll see what that booth actually ends up being with, you know, maybe not having any talent there, we'll see, but I was excited to see them. $7 a pop, which I don't even know how that's become part of my brain of knowing that booth, but like we saw them at WonderCon. I feel like we keep seeing them at places, or I guess it's maybe also just all of their, you know, for this con in particular, of like all the signings, like having Ashley Eckstein there. Like there's nobody we find that's busier signing these days than Ashley Eckstein. Like she pulls lines like the biggest Hollywood stars we see. I mean, she had lines in Phoenix almost like rivaling what Jeremy Renner had and stuff. And so seeing her there, it'll be interesting to see how they handle that crowding area over there with $7 a pop, and kind of over near the Funkoville and also near the DC booth. And it seems like that could be a really crowded, messy corner, but glad to see they're doing so many things and bringing so many celebrities themselves to the show.
Yeah, I was very unexpected. It's not a company that I'm normally looking for on the floor. It's and the fact that they've had so many big announcements and stuff, it's like a little almost confusing to me. I'm like, I'm kind of being thrown off by it because it's something different. It's not the norm. So it's awesome and incredible that they're pulling the talent that they are for their booth and stuff. But it is throwing me a bit off just because I'm not used to it. So, but it's awesome that they are, and that they are going to have so much talent there.
Yeah, I see over here in the chat. Why has Lego been so lackluster, no exclusives or giveaways? I mean, Lego's been to me really, personally as a collector, has been really disappointing over the last few years. Hasbro's been incredibly disappointing. A lot of it feels just like big companies being terrible, which I feel like is a lot of what we see in just media right now with Warner Brothers and Max and all of these things. It's just a lot of times it just feels like big companies being very not thinking really about fans. And it's just weird because San Diego, I mean, you come to San Diego, I think, to get fans excited. And if you are Hasbro showing up and taking away what is a lot of people's history with the convention of shopping at your thing, you're really missing it. The boss is way high up. I'm sure the people that don't show up at San Diego, but in the boardrooms are really missing it. And I think the same thing with Lego. Those Lego minifigures are a huge tradition. They're very important. And for collectors, not having Lego show up in a strong way is just as bad as for a hardcore Hall H person to not have like Marvel there. Like, it's just something. We know a lot of people that those booths are a huge part of their traditions there, and so yeah, it's really disappointing. I agree. I totally agree with that as well. I'm new to the guys' channel, and I'm a big fan of the content. Getting exciting. Going to be my 5th time going. Hope to see you there. Thank you very much, Jason. Very much. We appreciate the support there. Chad, not a huge chocolate eater, so I still have one of them from last year. We have not like taken the time to go buy the candy bars before, but then today trying them, that was our first time trying the convention center chocolate, and we're like, oh wow, this is really good. It was a lot more than I had realized it would be.
Now granted, I am pretty cheap, and $10 for any chocolate causes me to pause a little bit, but having tasted them and liked them, I'll consider it, but I still don't anticipate going out of my way to go out there just for chocolate. Plus, obviously, they do tend to sell out, so I'm sure other people care much more about it than I do, so I may just let them have it. But Yeah, I was surprised by how much I liked the chocolates this year.
Carrie said, thought it was a good schedule. Way more surprised than I expected. Totally with you. Can't agree more. I did not expect to put. I mean, I feel like I put for myself as many things for the Thursday possibilities as last year, if not more, 2019. So, and we know that there's going to be a softer schedule on Saturday and stuff. So I'm not going to say that like, oh, it's going to be the same schedule as always. But I was very, very impressed. The people in programming over there, I think, did a really good job with that. Do you think there's going to put Funko in Hall H on Saturday? I really, really did. I don't know. Like, to me, that made a lot of sense to put that in there. I mean, Funko, I hope, Funko, that's the thing. I mean, Funkoville, Fun Days, again, in a world where we're talking about, like, Marvel's not going to come do a panel. Warner Brothers isn't going to do a panel. They're not going to have their booth, but the DC's back. Those are all nice. I still am a really big fan of like Funko. Like, we're all in on Comic-Con. Like, we are all in. We're doing Fun Days. We're expanding our footprint. Like, they're in on it. So I think they're going to do something really cool with their panel, I would imagine. Let's see. Last year's going to next year's. There's some questions in here just about like the floor and some very specifics about that. So we have more about that in the video that's going to be coming out soon, and also we'll do another video on that as well. But I don't want to get too sidetracked with all the floor type strategies and stuff like that, because we have other videos with those things on there. Lego didn't do anything last year either, so it might be something they continue. But with that being said, they usually announce stuff late. Very good point too as well. They do announce things late. Do you like Jada Toys? Yeah, Jada Toys, they had a great booth. I feel like at Anime Expo, they've been at Monster Palooza. I really love like their approach of these like $20 price point cars with a character, a figure and stuff. And like Anime Expo, they just got wiped out. They sold out of everything.
Everything, yeah, everything had signs, sold out, and that was probably what, day 2 of Anime?
Yeah, it was. I don't know what day exactly, but it was definitely super early relative to the con. There was a lot of time, but they still had photo ops there, and they had a cool display, and they're all really nice there. But yeah, I think Jada Toys is a very fan-friendly company, and that is the thing, is like, as we look at things, I know for myself, as I look at places like Hasbro and Lego being a lot less fan-friendly, I feel like, and I find that as a result of how I feel like they're treating fans at Comic-Con, I just spend a lot less, like, I haven't spent $1 on Lego since they've stopped doing stuff at Comic-Con. And I'm not saying that's like a big protest or anything, but just for me, it kind of soured me a little bit on them, and so I found I just had less interest in them. But that said, NECA, Super 7, Toddland, Symbiote, all of these, these feel like fans running the companies versus like a big boardroom doing it. So I think for myself, I have to start even looking more at those booths for my exclusive hunting, even though I've been built on this like long history of everything being about, Hasbro and Mattel and Lego and all of that. Another big thing, obviously the portal opening up this week. We wait to the very end to do the portal, so we've not taken any time with the portal at all, because it's always like, well, let's evaluate it once we have all of the information there. But there are some interesting signings there. We did love Jury Duty on Amazon. That was such a, like, I don't know, it's just joyous, that show. And
very heartwarming.
Yeah, heartwarming. Good Omens. Love Good Omens season 2 coming. There's a lot of hype for that, so that was a neat thing to see there. Seeing Mattel on there, I'm mixed on that, because it's just, I did like that they were a people eater booth and brought a lot of people over there in line, and now those people aren't. But that said, we'll see how its popularity is with this change here. UCC is in there, obviously Funko's part of it, so a lot of good options in there already, and then we'll see what else might appear in the days ahead. But for ourselves, we won't really take much of a look at it till we get to the very end there, I think. So okay. Yep. Alrighty, so with that, let's check back in on the chat, and then we'll go to some of our tips and preview stuff coming along here. Hasbro doing only online sucks. I concur. I agree with you. Definitely, floor is going to be more packed this year. I agree. How early should I show for a signing and fastest route to them? That all depends on the booth. It all depends on the type of signing. That's just too broad of a question really for us to be able to answer here. But everything takes longer than you would think. So I know even like when we've had like a signing, like let's say at Mattel, and it's like it's at 1 p.m. and we have a guaranteed ticket, and you get there at 12:30 and there's already a line of 100 people waiting or something. So my advice always on signings in general is going to the booth and checking it a minimum of an hour in advance. You know, when we got Mark Hamill's signature at Comic-Con many years ago, it was like we checked the night before, we checked the morning of, we checked 2 hours before. 2 hours before there started to be a line, we got in the line, we waited. He unfortunately ended up being like an hour late. It was a very long journey to getting Mark Hamill's signature, but it did require a lot of checking beforehand. So as with all things Comic-Con,
being a very good experience for you, and
awesome.
You took a photo with him and stuff, and
yeah, he was
very
amazing.
nice.
He was amazingly nice, but yeah, it did require a lot of time for them, a lot of time. About Jada Toys over here also, they've got figures for $25, super great price, comes with a lot. I totally agree as well. Don't forget Mezco, great point. You know, Mezco's not something that I've bought any of, but there's a lot of temptation there, and I always do a lot of photos and video of that booth. And I'm sure as collectors, any of you that are collectors there know, like sometimes you're afraid to buy something from something because now you get like sucked into that line and you feel like you need more and more of those things. Carrie Dixon, love Good Omens with you there, Carrie. Hoping that there's more good to come from that as well. Tips on parking. Parking. So the parking sale, we're in group 2 now, and then is it, I believe, the 10th that it goes open to the general public there. So definitely check in with Ace. Whatever you do with parking, to me the biggest thing, and we have friends this year in this situation as well that were not in the lottery or able, like the open sale is the first thing on the 10th, and then if that goes, I'd really hunt around other opportunities, other parking. To me, the big thing is you just want to make sure you have parking secured before you come into San Diego, and so definitely Ace would be the place to go with that. And again, I think it's the 10th.
Carrie said yes, 10th at 10 a.m.
Yep, 10th at 10 a.m. So there you go. That would be definitely the spot to go. And even if it's further out, just get something booked in so you don't have to worry about it. Because showing up the day of, you know, we've not done that in a long time. I mean, we did that at our first Comic-Con, and even our first Comic-Con in 2005, we parked like a mile away showing up, and that was a whole different world. In that world, we were able to buy our ticket at the door for Comic-Con, but even in that world, we still parked like a mile away and paid like way too much for parking. So yeah, make sure to get in on that sale on the 10th if you have not already. Okay, yep, a bunch of people helping with that as well. Yeah, and then the COVID wristbands, no COVID wristbands this year. That was actually something when we looked at like last year's video about the convention center and those checks. There's no COVID wristband check or anything like that, so that's nothing to be checking into this year. Nowhere to pick up with that. So, okay, so previewing just some things that we have coming up here on our channel in the days and weeks ahead. As we're getting closer to Comic-Con, we're going to be down here more. So you'll find actually the next time we'll be down here, I believe, is Monday. We'll be down here 3 or 4 times before the week of Comic-Con. Then we'll be down here starting that Monday of Comic-Con all week. And so you're going to find that there's going to be a lot of off-site videos that we have of like the construction, the building. We'll probably do some lives and take you around 5th Street or things like that. So we're not sure always until we actually see everything coming together of how many of those videos we'll be doing, but we'll be doing those, and also we'll be doing this type of show as well. In fact, the equivalent for this show next week will be on the 13th, and we're actually going to be moving it, so it's a week from today, I believe that is, yeah, and we're going to be moving that earlier though, so it's going to be 3:30 Pacific, which we apologize if that's a bad time for you, but we need to move it earlier. We have kind of a cool thing that we'll be covering and we'll be able to share later on that night. That's at the normal time that we've been doing these shows. So we'll share more about that as we get a little bit closer. But next Thursday, we should have some fun stuff to share. The Convention Center visual guide will be coming up, and it'll be over on the blog there, the unofficial blog. So check that out when it comes out, if you will. And then I want to say also for our patrons, last night we did a Zoom with you all that were able to attend, or chat with some of you that were able to attend on the floor. And then we'll be doing another one. It was too late at night, we know, for our East Coast people. So we apologize to those of you that tuned in and stayed up late, because we know that could not have been easy. It must have been a real pain when it was near midnight for some of you on the East Coast. But next week we'll be doing it on, so not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, earlier midday. And so we'll send out that time on the Mighty Networks feed there for our Patreon people. And we will be doing the tour, as we've talked about, on preview night morning. If you want to walk the Comic-Con campus with us and see what's being built, and we'll kind of look around just like we would normally do on our own, covering stuff, but kind of show you stuff. And we have swag bags for you. Make sure to sign up on our Mighty Networks Patreon feed. Again, that's all for Patreon people there. We also did want to thank, we've got a number of new patrons in the last few days here, so just wanted to thank Jackie R, Aaron Amos, Jennifer BB, Sarah Lacey, Susan O'Hara, as well as all the rest of you that support. We do greatly appreciate it. All of that helps to pay for all the gas to come down here and things like that. So we do appreciate you all so very much. So with that said, then announcing our bag winner, we had another Twitter contest for swag bag, and so the winner for that, not sure if they're on the live stream or not, we'll post it on Twitter as well, but it's this one, I can't say it because it's like a bunch of letters. LIVI_LQ58 Livy LQ58. If you are there, congratulations. We'll also be posting it on Twitter. We will have some more giveaways, and then we will have prize drops again, in addition to helping out the unofficial blog with all the Adventures of Prize Mule, which they have amazing partners and incredible gifts from the people inside the convention centers stuff. None of our stuff is going to be from inside San Diego Comic-Con. All of our stuff is going to be from past conventions and donations from very kind donors and things like that. But we will have some fun, Funko Pops and Black Series figures and cards and all sorts of things that we'll be giving away, doing price drops. So follow along with us on Twitter for those.
And if you're not familiar with our price drops, basically we drop a gift or a prize somewhere and we post it, and whoever finds it first just gets to keep it, and by then we're usually long gone off to whatever our next task is. So really easy, just have to follow along so that you can be quick to get there, because especially at peak times, they're gone almost instantly.
Yeah.
So,
and we've tried doing them on Instagram stories or Facebook stories, and it just never works very well. So I think we're going to stick with Twitter here. And if Twitter doesn't exist for some reason, which I don't think will happen, but if it doesn't, we'll do them on something like Threads, or we'll do Instagram stories. But we'll announce that for sure. But I think we'll be doing them on Twitter like normal there. So, okay, let's check in on our tips. A couple tips from this last week that just wanted to kind of focus on. One, for those of you that do want a community, I know a lot of people will reach out and say, well, I'm doing Comic-Con alone. Are there other people that are interested in this? We do have our Facebook group if you are interested in that. The whole reason we created the Facebook group was simply to have a place where people could connect and find people. So that being said, if that is something that you are interested, there is a group there. They talk Comic-Con, I feel like, more than we talk Comic-Con. In some ways, as obsessed as we are with it, but they are talking Comic-Con like all year long. And there's some really good people in there. And if you find any bad people in there, just report them and then we ban them, because the whole point of our Facebook group is no drama and just helping people. So the slightest bit of drama, people get banned, and then that's just it, because we just don't have time for drama. So hopefully it's a fun place that will be helpful to you. So that's one option there if you're interested. Another one about the trolleys, we had posted this. This was something for those coming in from like the Hotel Circle area or Mission Valley. One of the interesting things there is the convention center stop drops you off before the convention center, and the gas lamp stop drops you off probably where most are going to want to go, kind of center of the convention center. So it's just something we know a lot of times new attendees will get confused by that, because they'll say, next stop convention center, and then they get off there, and like if it's in the morning and you're going to the everything else line or the Hall H line, it is a long walk from the convention center drop to the other end. You're basically getting dropped off before Hall A and then having to walk past Hall H.
yeah, so it just shortens the walk and the fight with all the crowds, because it's obviously, aside from just the pure distance, it's that much longer that you're having to maneuver around people and stuff. And so getting off at the gas lamp, there's still going to be a lot of people, but it's a much shorter distance that you're going to have to be navigating and negotiating through those groups.
Yeah. And if you have ADA access, then Hall A is going to be your destination, and we go over that in our convention center guide that we'll have coming out. And so then you will want to get off at the convention center stop, but just the convention center stop doesn't end up working for a lot of things the average attendee needs that's more central to the floor. So just a tip there. We know longtime people know that. Longtime people know all this stuff. They can be doing their own show. We appreciate all of you that always chip in on comments and stuff to help people, because we're just like any of you, that we just go to this convention and love the convention, and we talk about the convention and stuff. So we appreciate.
We can only talk obviously about our own experiences and our own habits and stuff, and having gone for a while now, we have our own particular ways of doing things and things that are important to us. But obviously we can only experience what we can experience, and we don't, everybody has their own needs and their own wants and stuff, and so having lots of voices helps definitely.
Yeah. And that was actually like why we created a Facebook group, because there's a lot of experts in the Facebook group that can answer the questions that we can't get to. And then the last of the tips for this episode that I want to stress, and again, these are all tips that we share on Twitter. If you want more of these tips, we'll have them on Twitter throughout the weeks ahead, though. But monitoring social media to get a handle on off-site specifics, experiences offered, capacity, swag, wait time, etc. before commitment. This, and we can expand it to panel, lining up for panels, exclusive signings, everything. To me, everything, it's like that old Who Wants to Be a Millionaire show where it was like phone a friend, or what was the other one? It was like crowdsourcing, basically, whatever it was, like poll the audience or something. To me, everything at San Diego Comic-Con is one of those two things. It's either phoning a friend because, or texting a friend, or tweeting a friend, or whatever it might be. It's either connecting with somebody specifically that says, this is how long the Hallmark line is right now. This is what it's like at Severance right now, or whatever. Or it's crowdsourcing it, and it's looking at, what is everybody saying about what they think of this offsite. I mean, there's sometimes you or I will love or really not love an offsite, but then you'll see like 80% of the people feel this other way, and you're like, okay, maybe we just had a bad run, or maybe we just had a good run through the experience. And so it's nice to do those. So again, we just had a comment on one of the YouTube videos recently that was like, any tips on getting stuff on preview night. It was pretty vague. It was like, any tips on getting things preview night. And it was like, as I said, and we'll stress in our upcoming video, to me, preview night, a lot of it's about gathering information to formulate the plan for Thursday through Sunday. So I find preview night incredibly important. But for me, I'm pretty satisfied if we walked out of preview night with nothing in hand, no exclusives, no swag or whatever, but we have like a clear plan of like, this is how the signings are going to work at this booth, and this is how the exclusives are going to work. So just some thoughts there for anybody, especially for our newer people there. So okay, let's go back to the chat there, and if there are any other questions, last questions as we go in there, please drop them in the chat and we will try to go through some of those now. Aaron A, excited to join the Patreon, cancel the streaming service to use this support. That is very, very kind of you, Aaron. I hope we do a good enough job with all this stuff, because that is a big commitment. So that's a lot of pressure now, but thank you so much, Aaron. We hope that it is worth your time, and we do appreciate it, and it has helped a lot. We do. Helicopters love making an appearance in your streams. Yeah, so it's interesting on the helicopter note. As I came in and I was taking pictures of the One Piece banner, I walked across the Bayfront Bridge. Carmel went to park, walked across the Bayfront Bridge, took a bunch of pictures up there, took a bunch of pictures of the convention center, started making my way down here, and the helicopter was circling fast, the helicopter. And then as I was over at Hall H waiting to pick up our chocolate, they were going over. And I thought, are they are they after me? Do they think like I'm doing bad things here? And won't go into a long story, but as a high school kid or a college kid leaving in and out in the middle of the night, there was a very scary situation where a helicopter followed my car for many miles, and then I came over a ridge and there was 3 police cars with their guns drawn on me because there was a drive-by shooting. It was not me, but I was coming from in and out. When they saw like my in and out cup, they like, well, what are you doing or whatever. But anyway, helicopters kind of scare me, and so I don't really love having helicopters fly overhead, and so that was weird, but they do seem to find us here. Thoughts on Funko if they are in Hall H? Will I need to line up for hours? So I think a lot is going to depend on what time of day it is. I mean, it's definitely going to be very popular. And one thing about it different than last year is, because last year it did not end up being as formidable as I thought. It was still required time, but I did think it was going to be like a really tough thing that required, all day to kind of handle. It ended up being a little easier than that. But I will say this year, I do think everything gets amplified because there's a little bit less requirement. So people aren't so beaten down. Like the year that Star Wars came and they did the John Williams concert and all of that, it beat everybody down so bad that like we came in on Saturday, because that was Friday, and we just scooped up. We flew right into Hall H in the morning and saw an incredible day of Hall H on Saturday because people were so beaten dead by the time they got done with that Star Wars party. And so this year, kind of conversely, as if people aren't as tired, if people who might have not considered going for that panel or some of these other things because they had already spent time all day seeing Game of Thrones or whatever else, I do think everything gets amplified. So I know for ourselves, for me, everything's going to be a little bit more like, okay, let's plan a little bit extra time. But again, it goes back to monitoring. Like for me, that it's going to be all about checking whether I was in my hotel room and seeing are people lining up overnight, or is it in the morning, is just monitoring where that line's at. The blog, SD_comic_con, is constantly sharing all of the different, tweets that are coming in about these. So really, as long as Twitter exists, and as long as you have Twitter, and as long as you follow the blog and us, I feel like you'll be able to have updates to kind of know where these line situations are and things like that.
Yeah, not having the schedule in front of us or anything, my initial thought is probably arriving maybe 2 panels before. If it's later in the day, would probably be good, but not knowing the schedule, it's totally just a guess. So I probably shouldn't have even offered that opinion. But yeah, I would figure on it requiring some time, but probably not all day or overnight, hopefully. But I don't know. But again, the blog will break down, and Carrie and James have done a lot of, they have done the camping out thing, and they've done a lot of panels in Ballroom 20 and Hall H over the years. So they do have a lot of knowledge and stuff, and are really good at breaking down the schedule and looking at the panels surrounding to offer insights. So definitely follow along with them and listen to or watch them when they do that that YouTube video, or listen to the podcast version, because it is very helpful. And until we know all the information, we can't really even offer a valid guess.
Aaron says, I really appreciate your liberal banning policy on jerks in the Facebook group. Thank you for that. A lot of people don't, but
well, those jerks don't, because they don't appreciate being called out, or not that even being called out, just basically reprimanded. And if they reach out and apologize, and we have a conversation or something, that we may let someone back in if there's some sort of misunderstanding. But yeah, we're very quick. Sean especially is very quick on just blocking people and trying to keep that group as friendly as possible, because we don't have time to monitor the drama. We don't want other people to deal with the drama. It's Comic-Con is supposed to be fun, and everything we're affiliated with are just trying to help people and improve the experience. And so when other people are not doing that, we try not to deal with it, or just ignore it, or just it's not worth our time to fight people on that way.
But there's not a day between May and July that we don't think of just ending that group, because we do get a lot of messages outside of that of people that are upset because they did get blocked from the group. So we do appreciate any of you that help. And if anybody wants to be moderators in that group to help us kind of with that, please reach out to us and let us know, because I think that is one thing we need to look at, is we need help monitoring that group. So if any of you are on Facebook and you want to become a moderator, please reach out to us, and we would love to have some more help kind of making sure people are nice in that group and help everybody out there. Speaking of drops, we have the mini critter drops. Yes, the crochet drops are awesome. We see those on Twitter as well. There's a lot of great Twitter drops there as well. From a number of people, but the mini critters are super cute as well. Definitely love seeing those in there. What else? Questions? Advice on the free book giveaways at the book publishers booths. We've not really participated in the free book ones. Like, we do end up, like, we've bought from Del Rey, we've bought from Penguin, we've bought from a few, but I've never myself been part of that. So if anybody in the chat knows, please go ahead and add that in there, because I don't have that. Will the donut shop be back at the Pendry Hotel? We do believe it will be back there. We think there'll be more information on that really soon, actually. I heard the Jurassic Park offsite location is a bad location. Any opinions on that? Well, it's a long walk. Yes, that's a great question. It's a long walk, and it is in, it's a relatively rough, you basically go to the Petco Interactive Zone, and you keep going a good distance from there. And so it is not a close walk, so you do have to plan on a long time commitment. And it also is a walk that, we'll see what it's like on this time, but there are a lot of, like, homeless camps on that walk. So it's kind of an awkward situation where you're, like, walking. It's weird thing, we're going to walk through people's homes on the street to get to Jurassic Park. So it's a very interesting location there. I'm not sure that we would feel like we have the time to go out there, but we're also not big photo op people. And so there's going to be a couple really cool photo ops there. We're usually more like excited about like experiential stuff, like, you know, escape room type things or things of that nature. Stuff like, you know, what the Purge was, or a museum like the Orville was, or Dungeons and Dragons, the Tavern experience, stuff like that. So we don't tend to spend a lot of time doing photo ops, and that's mostly what it is there. I think it's going to look amazing, but yeah, is it going to be worth that time? That is going to be an opportunity cost. It probably just depends on how big of a Jurassic Park fan you are for that. The group is great. I feel it's a great resource. Chad, the vast majority of Comic-Con goers are amazing. I cannot agree with you more. Like, the only rude ones we ever come across are just random people that show up in a Facebook group and try to pick on people. So it's really weird. It's a very specific Facebook thing for us, at least.
Now, AT commented that that area is not rough at all. She lives
good.
right next to it.
Good.
Don't believe the hype. That the
homeless blocks are a couple blocks south. Okay. Yeah, and maybe it's the path you go there. In our journeys, and that's probably exactly it, because we don't go out that far that often. But in like doing photos over by the trains or the trolley station over there the other day, it was like it was a walk. It was a walk to get over there. Okay, so yeah, with all the offsites, just kind of in closing, as there are going to be more, we know there always are a lot announced in like that last 10 days or so. You know, whether it's Jurassic Park or any of the others, just remember the time commitment for them, and just it's how into the thing you are and stuff. Like, I know we didn't get to do Severance last year. We really, really wanted to do Severance last year. It didn't work out. It was a huge time commitment, and it just didn't happen for us. And so I'm saddened, because I've heard really great things from people that did it. But at the same time, there's no way I would have dedicated the hours, just because I know we are kind of on the move all over the place. So I think that's going to be the same for everybody, as your mileage may vary with them all. But again, that's where it helps having like in the chat here, getting that information. And as people start to make their way out there, I mean, it's only a 2-day, right, that experience is going on. So there's not a big window of time to kind of crowdsource what people feel. But, you know, we'll start seeing the build updates and what it's looking like, and people can start judging for themselves of like, is it something that they're, you know, really into or not. So
yeah, everything, it's the opportunity cost and stuff, and how important it is to you individually. And I mean, if you happen to be here and you don't have a ticket to go inside the show, then by all means, you do whatever you can outside. But yeah, if Jurassic Park is your thing, then you're going to take that hike, and we couldn't convince you otherwise. But
if it was Planet of the Apes, there's no way I would miss it. There's like no chance. If it was Twilight Zone, there's no way I would miss it. And so there's just some of those things of those properties, you know. But even though I love Star Wars, I wouldn't go that far for Star Wars. And the reason being is I love Star Wars probably the most of any of them at the end of the day. But there's just so much more Star Wars in the world that I feel like I'm always coming across cool Star Wars photo ops and things like that. Whereas Planet of the Apes and Twilight Zone, those are kind of older franchises that don't get the same sort of stuff out there. So. All right, with that then, as we kind of come to the end of this show, this will also be an audio only version, or in addition, I should say, version. So if you follow along, if you're more of an audio person, which I know I am, I don't really ever watch YouTube stuff very much on my own. You can find our podcast feed and be able to listen to it over there. If you are a YouTube person, though, we do have those other videos coming up. Again, the big ones being the new visual guide coming for the convention center. And then after that, a lot of the videos are going to be just the build updates. And some of them we might put together like a day in San Diego, like here's the 10 things we saw. And some of them may be lives. As we get closer and there's so much building, we'll do some kind of tours and things like that. And so we'll have those as well. But please subscribe, give the thumbs up, retweet things, share things. All of that is greatly appreciated. We can't thank our patrons enough. Patreon people, thank you so much. And again, watch the Mighty Networks feed for more feedback there, or more, I should say, stuff coming up there in the near future.
Information, scheduling, events, stuff. Yeah.
All right, with that, we're going to wrap up here from San Diego. And again, we'll be back next week with more stuff on social media, more live shows, and just more Comic-Con stuff in general. So until next time, we'll see you all in line somewhere.